Hi, parents and well-wishers and community supporters. I'm Deacon John Wilson, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church, where our pastor is Pastor Charles Blake. And we are in our continuing kind of series of Parents, Do You Know What's Going On in Your Schools? I thought I should have Elina Kaplan on with us. I'll just talk to her for a bit in front of you here. You'll get the point very soon, I think. And Elina, I'm so glad you made some time. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Deacon John. It's a pleasure to be here. So let's take it away.
Yeah, tell us about ACE. It's actually ACES.
ACEs.
It's ACEs, very good. What's the name of it? What's the I know you could talk for a while, but as succinctly as possible, the origin and the purpose. So I want people to hear it as I heard about it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So ACEs, or stands for Alliance for Constructive Ethnic Studies, was formed in 2020. And the purpose was and has been to remove ideological agendas from K through 12 ethnic studies. Since then, we've discovered that ethnic studies is actually becoming integrated around California schools into everything, from history to mathematics. So this work is more important than ever. We are an entirely nonpartisan grassroots coalition, and we believe in ethnic studies that does all the things that the vast majority of people would expect. So build bridges of understanding, confront racism honestly, celebrate ethnic accomplishments, expose students to multiple perspectives, just what any person, any California or American would expect it does. We believe in that in contrast to what has happened with what's called liberated ethnic studies or critical ethnic studies, which we'll talk about. I'll pause here.
Yeah. So what is it? I like that. Wow. So what does a good ethnic studies program look like to you?
So a good program does all those things that I just said, and it focuses on ethnic groups. It focuses on their history. It focuses on their contributions, their struggles, absolutely, their accomplishments. How did they overcome those struggles? And it comes at it all from a historical perspective and a lens of hope. How did these ethnic groups get to where they are today? Yes, what still remains to be done, but here's what they've accomplished and here's what they've contributed to our society as a whole. This is all as the law intended. This was the intent of the laws AB 2016 and then later AB 101. These are both the laws that have to do with ethnic studies, and the intent of them is very clear, that the intent was to elevate these histories of ethnic groups.
Oh, yeah. It's like what the old geography classes should do now.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I know I got really smart with cultures somehow in the old days, but I don't think they were getting that now. So this is a good idea.
Yeah, so the idea is that you separate it from any ideological agendas. There's no reason to have any political or ideological agendas in the courses, because what you would be talking about, what you should be talking about, is these groups and, again, what they've accomplished, what they've contributed, and so on. But the problem is it's gotten hijacked by this field called liberated ethnic studies. Used to go by critical ethnic studies, but it's pretty much all the same thing. It's politically driven ethnic studies. So it's a radicalized version of what you and I would expect.
What are some of the areas or ideologies of your major? I know you have several things we talked about, but what today are your major areas of ideological concern, looking from the point of view of a parent?
Yeah, so I would say let's start with the major area, the umbrella area is the framework itself. Any kind of ideological agenda does not belong in the classroom. Doesn't matter what it is, far left, far right, any ideological agenda does not belong in the classroom. And what we have here is a subject where teachers are trained. We have an area where teachers are trained that they need to be grounded in the correct politics in order to teach ethnic studies. Really? So as soon as you do that, you can assume that nothing positive is going to come out of this. So the framework itself, in this case, it happens to be the following. It divides students into oppressors and victims.
Oh.
So divides them into two camps. And when you do that, students are basically automatically encouraged, without explicitly being told so, to identify as victims, because who wants to be labeled as an oppressor? It's safer to be labeled as a victim. And so
good point. I hadn't thought about that part.
Yep.
About the race angle, but not
It's
that. Okay.
Absolutely. And so students will, twist themselves into any way they can so that they can go into the victim box. And so we have students, the way this plays out in the classroom is that students are asked to fill out a social identity chart, let's say, that lists their gender, sexual orientation,
right,
emotional development ability, race, religion, socioeconomic
I've heard of
status,
that.
and so on. Yeah. And for each box, literally box, they're supposed to say, are they an agent or a target? So now we have students dissecting different parts of their identity to say, am I an agent or a target in this way? And they're listing all the parts of their identities and ranking them in order of oppression level. Pretty crazy stuff. We also have, so if you look at some of the actual curriculum, you'll see that in third grade, so third to sixth graders, we're talking 18 to 12-year-olds, are supposed to quote, I'm going to read you a quote here, challenge imperialist / colonial hegemonic beliefs and practices on the ideological, institutional, interpersonal, internalized levels. Third graders, okay? And then on top of that, students across the board are supposed to talk about who has power over you at school. Who has power over you? So now I'm quoting again. This is from a local district. Brainstorm some people, institutions, etc., that control what you do in school. Not only that, but you also have a similar thing saying, think about in your family, what is the power structure? What is the oppression structure in your own family? Now, what are students not doing when they're doing all that? They're not learning about ethnic groups.
Oh, that's right. You start off talking about the groups, yeah.
And you get into this crazy making tunnel and you forget that, yes, that's bad in itself, but also they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Hey.
One thing, I'll just throw in one thing that is particularly striking to me is who are held up as the role models. Anytime you look at an ideology, let's set aside for a moment that ideologies don't belong in the classroom as a matter of promoting one as opposed to simply studying one. But looking at role models is important. If you look at who the role models are, I think it's very telling that in the initial draft of the ethnic studies model curriculum, which was kind of the precursor to, which was written by these people, these activists that are the liberated ethnic studies leaders, there are 154, I literally counted them myself, role models of color. Guess who is missing? Now, highlighted are a lot of like militant.
I'm afraid to ask. Go ahead and tell me anyway.
No Martin Luther King, no John Lewis, no Thurgood Marshall, no Barack Obama.
Booker T. Washington?
No Booker T. Washington. None of these folks. None of these leaders, prominent leaders that worked within our system to be change makers, to change the system, as opposed to overthrowing it, none of those are in there. Why? Because they're considered too passive.
Right.
Yes. Or
right.
Docile.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So then you ask, well, who is then highlighted? And who is there are leaders like Oscar Lopez Rivera, who's responsible for 130 bomb attacks in the US and so on. So all these militant leaders. I think that more than anything says it all.
Wow. I don't know. Real quick, this curriculum, so parents, is required or going to be or is required to graduate high school. And I see CSU and UC are orienting to put it as a requirement somewhere here to get in. They haven't totally said, but it is a high school requirement to graduate as of now.
That's absolutely right. That's right. So with the law AB 101,
That's
what
right. Maybe
what we have now is a requirement that students take at least a semester of ethnic studies before they graduate. This requirement applies to the class of 2029, 2030. So one of the questions you can ask is where your school is in adopting ethnic studies, because at this point, the state doesn't require them to do it yet.
not
Many
yet.
schools
Okay.
are doing it anyway.
Right.
Many schools are also making it a year instead of a semester. And the majority of them are having this class in place of US history or world history.
That really concerns me. That's how I first heard about it when I was inspecting the transcript of a school that was trying the program out.
Mm,
I realized, I said, where's US history? And I was told, check our course list for pathways. It was approved.
yes.
Yikes.
Well, it's interesting, actually, even speaking of US history, one of the things we also have happening is US history being revamped. In addition to ethnic studies
So you have
replaced,
that going on. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, at the same time, you have history courses that are being revamped and they're replacing objectives like, so courses have several objectives, a list of objectives that they have for students. And so what you have is US history courses that are being revamped to remove fundamental objectives like understanding the fundamental values of American democracy with understanding how how oppression and hegemony drive American society.
1619 project.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
this is, which is one thing, by the way, none of this, I want to make clear that we at ACES aren't saying that anything shouldn't be taught. There's a
Oh, no,
difference
me
between
neither.
teaching and explaining versus promoting. It's when you say that teachers should be grounded in correct politics that you start getting in trouble.
That's unacceptable. So, quickly, how did we get here? What happened?
It's
Do you know?
such
I know you think about it a lot, but go ahead.
I do think about it, absolutely, because in order to know how do we get out of here, we have to understand how do we get here in the first place. And I think that's important. The short answer is because most of us weren't looking.
Yeah, we're
That's how we got
distracted,
here.
right? Yeah.
That's how we got into most of these situations. They happen under the radar and people aren't paying attention. It started out, so the field of ethnic studies is one that goes back a while back. In academia, it's been around for a long time. It's an openly politicized field. They say that this is, you have to follow particular politics. But it's one thing to offer that in college where students can opt into it and can read the description and
Right.
understand
That's why I
and
never
go,
had trouble
yeah,
with
sure,
it.
I want to do that. It's quite another to be teaching it in public schools as a required course. And so it's been for years, the academics who refer to themselves as scholar activists, and they say this openly, have been trying to get this type of curriculum, this liberated, this critical ethnic studies into schools. They broke through in the last few years, and these activists have started getting it into actual their curriculum, their version, this radicalized version of ethnic studies into schools. And you have that actually, I know that you're in the Los Angeles Unified School District. That is a prime example of what has happened, that the activists have taken over what used to be, frankly, quite a good curriculum.
Well, I want to have you back to talk about that. We'll do that within a week or so. I really do. And one
Absolutely.
more thing, what can parents really do? You referenced a couple things earlier. I give you a chance to. What should parents do now that they got this information? What should they be looking into? What should they research? What should they
There's
do?
there's a lot that they can do. So number one, above all, find out what's happening in your school. So the first thing to do is talk to your student, take a look at what they're learning, look at their worksheets, their PowerPoint slides, whatever it is, to understand what they're learning. Ask about the status of ethnic studies in your school and social studies curricula in general. Ask about what's new, what's being changed, what's being added. Express your concerns when appropriate, and urge that the school adopts positive, constructive, empowering curricula. If they don't know what that is, they can absolutely go to our website, which I'll tell you in a
Yeah,
moment.
please.
Absolutely, and they can learn more. They can join district and school curriculum committees. They should absolutely
Yeah, I've
go
been
to.
stressing that. I've been stressing.
Yes, should go to district school board meetings and get information and speak out when appropriate. Talk to other parents and teachers to spread the word about your concerns, and also definitely reach out to us if you'd like help organizing a group, if you'd like help looking at something, whether it's a curriculum as a whole or something that you think might be problematic, but you're not sure. There are plenty of things you can do, but we urge everybody to do something, whatever feels right to them, to do something.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate it. Hey, folks, we're going to put the link to her website down below. I kind of looked through without her telling me and pick some particular pages I like. So we'll have a nice set of links for you, parents. As always, parents, reach out to me too. Put comments in the chat. You can, in our comments below, you can like and subscribe, of course. A lot of you already are. That's why you're here. And just keep posted on what's happening in your school. And I'll have some more of these videos to talk about what's going on in the school. Next, we're going to discuss this idea of standardized testing being removed. I do need to have a discussion about that with you. But thanks, Elina, a whole lot. We're going to have her back.
Thank you so much.
In a week or so.
My honor.
All right. Thanks so much. Thank you, parents. Bye-bye now.
Bye.